Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters podcast. Today on the podcast, I'm talking with James Meredith. James is an operational firefighter in the UK, and we are talking about contamination. Breathing apparatus, carcinogens, and the effects of the chemicals, smoke, and byproducts that we are coming into contact with on a daily basis as part of our operational duties. Now, this is not a new story. This is something that has been researched, it's been studied, it's been written about, and James himself has written some awesome blogs that I know we're going to drop in the links at the bottom of this episode, but the data is becoming overwhelming now. We need to be doing something about this, and as operational firefighters and operational crews, we can take that ownership on certain things that we can do, certain things we're going to hear today that our services, that our suppliers need to do a little bit more about to keep us safe and sound, not just now, but in 10, 20, 30 years, where some of these cancer-causing products are going to bite us in the proverbial bum if we don't do something about it right now. Once again, we are sponsored by the wonderful William Wood Watches. William Wood Watches is a UK-based brand that makes incredible fire service watches. These are made from 100% recycled fire service equipment, once forgotten, now reborn. Head over to williamwoodwatches.com and check out their beautiful collection right now. Use code FFP5 and grab yourself a discount at williamwoodwatches.com. James shares some fantastic messages today, and don't worry, it's not all about the data. We're not going to get bogged down in the numbers. You're going to hear some practical steps. You're going to hear some ways you can look after yourself, look after your team, and also how you can register your information and start trying to push through some policies and procedures so that future firefighters can benefit from the actions and steps that we take to keep ourselves and everyone else in the team safe and sound when we're out there doing the job, kicking ass and taking names. Hope you enjoy this one. James is a really interesting dude, and I know you're going to enjoy my conversation with him, so buckle up for safety, and I will see you on the other side. James, welcome to the Firefighters podcast. How you doing, brother?
Good, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on today, my man. I was checking out your Stoke Vent Instagram page the other day, and I was blown away by the level of detail that some of the stuff have gone into, because in our service, we've had this conversation around contamination and stuff like that, and I know that's not the only thing you focus in around, but what really triggered me was when I read the article that you'd put about it. So for people that are unfamiliar with your page or with your movement and everything that you're doing, give us a quick intro on what Stoke Vent is and how it sort of got started.
So yeah, basically it's just there to encourage people to take care of themselves, really. I think there seems to be a bit of a culture in our job where it's kind of uncool to care about your health, I think sometimes, or people don't like to get quite conscious sometimes, I think, of trying to take too many precautions. It can look like you're scared to do the job sometimes if you seem to be too careful. The message I'm trying to get across is just that you can do your job, you can be aggressive in the job and still look after yourself. You know, you can concentrate on the task at the time, but it's about what you do afterwards, the post-fire routines, the activities, cleaning up, cleaning down, things like that, just to make sure you're giving yourself the best chance of achieving the longevity in your career, basically.
I love what you say there, because when I read your article, it got me kind of thinking about the old firefighters mantra about, you know, we take some risk to save savable life and some risk to save savable property and all that sort of stuff, because we do take risk. There's no two ways about it, and we often do like a little bit of that risk. You know what I mean? People that gravitate towards emergency services, we like doing a little bit of the funny, the sexy, the climbing up ladders, the getting into burning buildings, but that is necessary risk that we take. But what you're talking about there, and it came through so much in when I read it, was we are exposing ourselves to unnecessary, long-term, debilitating risks that don't make any sense. They're not cool, they're not glorious, and it is walking that fine line, because like you said, there is something cool and sexy about walking towards the danger when everyone else is running away, but I wonder how many people are consciously throwing caution to the wind, and how many people, and I have to say this from when I speak to new recruits, are so unaware of some of the stuff we're going to talk about today in terms of the contaminants and stuff like that, that we are actually taking any risk at all. I think people think that when we've finished the job, the risk is over.
I think that's it, exactly. There is a big lack of awareness. I mean, when I first joined, it wasn't on my radar at all for the first few years.
Nope.
Yeah, I used to take my day working rig home, a flash at home, it would go in the washing machine at home. You know, if I've been on a BA refresher, I would travel home in my working rig I had on under my kit. I would walk through my front door in that kit. I wouldn't necessarily go straight in the washing machine. I wouldn't even shower straight away sometimes.
Nope.
Whereas
You
now
just get in, you sit down
opposite.
straight at the dinner table, don't you? Sit down with the family, give the kids a hug, your fire kits,
Think of it, your hair
you've
smells.
been out to the fire behaviour unit, so you've just thrown it all in the back of the car or whatever. And also, like when I was thinking when I first joined, because BA jobs and stuff like that were so rare, you'd actually, because you wanted to like uphold this idea of, oh yeah, I've been in there tackling the red beast, so you might even wipe a bit of soot on your face, or you'd want to get your fire kit dirty, and people are like, no, I don't want to clean my helmet, I've been in a wear.
Yeah, exactly. There is cliche statement of it being sort of a badge of courage, isn't there? Yeah. And if you're seen at work with a clean kit, it almost creates that false perception that you haven't done any work. Yeah. Even if you just put a clean kit on 20 minutes ago, it's a difficult one to overcome because it is such an ingrained culture. You see a dirty kit, naturally it reflects hard work, doesn't it?
Or he or she's been grafting, you know what I mean? And even the pictures that we see, and it's always of, they're coming out drenched with sweat out of the BA wear or climbing out the road traffic collision. They've got a bit of grease on them. They've got a bit of smoke on them. They've got soot on their face. They must have been they're heroes.
Yeah, and I mean, all the pictures you see in the media, pictures on movie posters, things like that, there's always that little bit of soot on the face. They've got a bit of a bit of dirty kit, haven't they? So, it is everywhere, and I think people aspire to that image, don't they? And because it is a bit of a culture, no one wants to be the odd one out, I think, which is a big part of the problem. And that lack of awareness you said about new recruits, not really knowing where the risks are. When it comes to it, I think there's three categories. I think you've got the firefighters that do know what's going on and they want to know a bit more. They want to know as much as they can and take those proactive measures. You've got the ones in the middle that don't really know much but want to know more. And then at the other end, I think you've got the firefighters that just don't want to know about it because they don't want to acknowledge that those risks are there. It might be that they've been in for 20 years. They know that there was stuff they could have been doing, but at the time, they didn't know because we didn't have the information we've got now.
And that's forgivable to a certain extent. You can forgive, not that they need forgiving, but you can forgive that. Because this is true of so many aspects of society. Smoking, for example, in general, or some of the dietary things we used to do, or some of the things we used to do with our general health. We didn't know back then. We didn't know.
Exactly.
And it wasn't a case that the information was there and we just weren't implementing it. But now, because of the work you've done, and I know we're going to reference a few studies when we get talking about it, the work has been done. It has been done and the information is there. Now it's that uncomfortable conversation of implementation. I mean, I cast my mind back to asbestos and things like that because
it's very similar, yeah.
That became it was the miracle mineral, wasn't it? And I'm going to get my dates wrong, but back in the 60s, 70s, it was used everywhere. It was used in clothing, in buildings, in everything like this. Yeah. And then some of the work started going in, and we started to see 10, 15 years later asbestosis and fibers on the lungs and stuff like this. And people went, "Oh, damn! Hang on a minute, maybe not." And then we started to put a few provisions in place, and building regs caught up and stuff like that. Now we're getting to the point where, I always say to people, the difference between obvious and oblivious are very, very small, because when you think about the work that you do and what we're talking about, all the carcinogens and all the things that are in the smoke and the byproducts that come from those substances, it makes so much. I don't really think, whilst the science is there, when you explain it to somebody, as I know we're going to, you don't need to hear all of the science because it makes bloody sense when you think about it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you made that comparison, really, because the lack of awareness around asbestos, like you say, 40, 50 years ago, was treated very much the same as products of combustion carcinogens are now, really. And the things that we know now about asbestos, it makes you wonder what we're going to know 30, 40 years from now
absolutely.
about this subject, really. So,
and even medications and stuff like that. I see, people talking about certain medications that people take these days. We don't know the long-term effects of them, and that's kind of fine now. Fine, but we don't know. So we're everybody's guessing a little bit. The long-term effects of whatever, vaping or something we don't know. Yeah. But there's medications that were given with the best of intentions 20 years ago, and now, when we look at statins or we look at some medication that was given for pregnancies, and we're it did some damage. Sorry, we didn't know at the time. And now this is when we're starting to learn that. But in the fire service, like you've said, this is something that medication is not very sexy. But the job that we do and the way that we do it, it's such a crossover, and we've said it already, but I want to repeat it because it's such a significant point. That idea of hard worker, hero, man or woman, going in, getting amongst it, dragging somebody out in the job. That's what they did it for, and they get excited about the BA wear. So how do we bring the science to the forefront? And I know the work that you're doing is so crucial, and that's why I wanted to have you on. And how do we uncouple that and allow people to still do the job with passion? Be a little bit clever about it.
I think the main thing is to the health side of it, really, and looking after yourself. If you want to, if you want to maintain that image, that strong image that people, I guess, aspire to, the only way to do that is to look after your health, really. If you neglect your health, the ability to carry out your job is going to very quickly, in a lot of cases, diminish.
Very quickly.
And I've said before about health and safety, people think that health and safety is there to stop you doing your job.
Yeah.
It's actually there to maintain your ability to keep doing your job.
Yep.
And I think people can get quite, het up with these rules and things that feel like they get in the way.
And I'll be honest, I thought the same. You see health and safety officers as the bloody fun police, don't you? But you forget that they're the unsung heroes, because often, and I've said this before on the podcast, when you see a revolution or an alteration in a national operational guidance or an operational procedure or PPE or something like that, it's usually come at the cost of somebody's life. Usually somebody has died from this thing you believe to be arbitrary, and then this unsung hero who often turns up with some data or a clipboard, and you think they're the fun police. It's gone through 7 iterations, but they're bringing you a piece of evidence that has cost somebody their life, and we're so quick to dismiss it.
That a lot of the time, that is where the change comes from. It's because somebody has lost their life, or their life has been seriously altered, and that has prompted a change. Especially in our job, a lot of the big changes do occur when those incidents happen, unfortunately, and it leads to some quite fundamental changes further down the line that are very important.
Yeah, I want to look a little bit more closely at the data, because I was reading back to some of yours, and this isn't like data that came out years ago, which we now think is out of date. I was looking back at one of the 2018 studies. I think you referenced Professor Anne Steck. Was that correct?
Anna Steck at the University of Central Lancashire. Yeah, that is a recent one. Yeah,
that was an interesting piece of data. If you expand a little bit on what the takeaways were and how you use it in your article.
Yeah, so basically what they did was conducted a study to look at the effects of carcinogens, specifically polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs, that are produced during a fire. And we our bodies take on these compounds, and we can absorb them, we inhale them, and we don't necessarily see the effects for several years. Yeah. And I guess that's really what they are looking at.
I just want to catch you there, just so we don't go. I want us to go into detail, but just so we don't lose any of the earlier listeners, just expand for anybody that's unaware. What are carcinogens?
So, carcinogenic means the ability to cause cancer, which is basically a mutation of your cells, the forming of cancerous cells, I guess. I won't get too scientific. I don't necessarily know the science of it, but carcinogenic means it has the ability to cause cancer.
I don't think anybody needs any more detail than that. When you drop the C-bomb, people are like, there's no debate. Cancer kills people, and these things are scientifically proven to stimulate, produce, mutate those cells to become cancer causing. So this study was looking at some of the byproducts that come from incidents, chemicals, materials that we attend, and the long-term effects on operational firefighters.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's these toxins, these carcinogens that cling to your PPE, they get on your skin, they get in your mouth. And it's these things that you need to get off you as soon as you can, which is why all these initiatives with on-scene decontamination, wiping your face, your neck, your arms, your hands as quickly as you can. Really, as soon as you come out of the fire, and it's not always practical, is it? That you can do it as soon as you come out. It's not always practical. You can do it just as quickly as you can. Really.
It's always the case. There's going to be a certain element of risk that is totally unavoidable. But no, I totally hear you, and I want us to. We're going to go into some of the detail around the stuff that's been put in place, but it is totally achievable for people to do that at the earliest possible case. Because we say a shower, right? Yeah, okay. Well, hang on a minute, James. I can't do a bloody shower till I get back to the station. But I know we've had things like, and we're going to go into it. I think they call them sponges or squeegees or some squeegees, but it's something like that. I can't remember what it's called. We have them. and we drop them off now in every BA servicing area. So, everybody knows you throw a salvage sheet down, and then we've got a couple of cylinders, we've got bottles of water, and then that next bit, which is now becoming more crucial, is the ability for the crews to decontaminate. Just round the edge of their face seal, take the tunic off, turn it inside out. What are the other things that when people are at the incident, I don't want us to jump ahead of ourselves, but things that I want to break down as you're explaining things there. So when people are coming out of the job, what are some of the big pitfalls, and where's the first time you can see these new practices most effective? How soon can we be acting on this?
I guess as soon as you come out the job, obviously depending on what's going on, if you can derub your kit essentially as soon as you can, helmet, flash hood, tunic. I know some services now they're actually removing the flash hood before they come from under air. They're reducing the exposure.
No, totally. So helmet's coming off, and then flash hood's actually coming over, like you said, the BA mask and down the lung demand valve and down the hose.
You're getting that away from you. You're breathing less in, and then get on top of the cleanliness. Get your wipes out, wipe your face, your neck, your hands, your throat as well. Particularly areas where your skin is thin as well is quite vulnerable. Behind your ears, things like that. I guess it's just about taking those steps as quickly as you can and as safe as you can. Obviously, don't neglect anything else on the fire ground that needs to be done. It might be that you don't get the opportunity to do that for 15 or 20 minutes, but it might be that you can do it within the first 5 minutes of coming out, depending on the job. So, how
much of a priority do we need to make this, though? It's always the case with long-term pain, isn't it? It's not an immediate not an immediate concern, but it's not an immediate threat is the biggest problem that we have here. For example, if you said, you're going to go up in the Alp, James, you're going to go up in the aero ladder platform, you wouldn't go, oh yeah, well, I'll see if I've got time to put a harness on. No, it's not a choice, James. You've got to put a harness on if you're going to go up in the Alp, because if you fall out, you're going to die, and you're going to die immediately.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whereas with this, we're like, mate, when you get time. The science is there. I mean, there's the science behind falling off an Alp and dying. No one's going to debate that. But also, we're getting to the point now where there's an overwhelming amount of data that nobody's going to contest these products of combustion, these carcinogenic byproducts. Do cause cancer. There's not surely we're getting to a point where there's not a debate there now. So do you see us getting to a point where it's like, no, you've done your BA wear now. You cannot do any other thing on the instant ground. You must go and get your spare kit out of the cab. And with resources limited and crews smaller, I don't know if we're going to get there.
Yeah, exactly. You beat me to it really. I think with the resources we've got, the crew numbers we've got, I can't. That's not going to take priority. If we had 8 people on a fire engine. Yeah. Maybe that might happen, but I don't think that's going to take a priority. We need to look after our health, but obviously we have to uphold our duty to take care of members of the public first. I think really it's when that work is done, we then have to take every possible step we can. Obviously, we need to look after ourselves before we can look after other people. It's a bit of a catch-22, really.
That's what I'm saying. When does that line pivot off? Because if I'm like, so let's run it through. So I've come out of a job, or one of my team's come out of a job, or whatever. Yeah, all right, lads, BA service scenarios over there. Get yourself sorted, wipe your masks off and all that. And they've taken their jackets off, they're wiping their masks off. But there's only us 4 there, or whatever. It's limited resources, and I need somebody to go into the loft and check for hotspots, or I need somebody to go and put up some smoke alarms next door. That's the point for me where I'm going, no, that's got to wait. But some people will be like, oh, well, I want to get back to station. Can't we just get these home safety checks done and bloody go?
I think it depends on the nature of the work, whether it's time critical or not, doesn't it? It's like you said, if the fire's out, you just need to go back in to check hotspots. And I think absolutely take 5 minutes to get your kit off, clean yourself off. Why not? At the other end of the scale, if you need to be performing CPR on somebody, obviously that's going to come first.
Yeah, of course.
But that goes without saying. So I think what's important for people to realise is every incident is different, and it's just about taking a common sense approach to it, isn't it? And doing what you can do at the time with what you've got, basically.
I've seen that one of the most difficult times where I see this happening, because let's come away from the instant ground for a second, because I think the first hit can be on the instant ground, and it should be, because that's where we're going to have the biggest impact. But when we return into station, you were said about trying to shower off and trying to change your kit as soon as possible. When you get back, there's always stuff to do. You got to wash your kit down. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. And I've seen it where people have been like, boss, can I just go and have a shower? And I'm like, yeah, okay, you wore, so yeah, go and have a shower. And it's that grumbling of the team. And I know this is just, we're talking management and leadership skills and stuff like that now, but well, are we talking about priorities? You know, if somebody else is aware of what that person has exposed themselves to, and they respect and they want to look after that individual as well, then yeah, maybe cleaning the hose down is going to have to wait, guys. You know, putting new smoke alarms back in the box, that's going to have to wait, because I want this individual, go and change your kit, go and shower off, and then together, whatever, we'll go and, you know, clean the hose down. We'll go and change this over.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, you work as a team, don't you? So you would like to think that each member of that team will make allowances for their crew members if they, you know, if their role has been a little bit different and they maybe do need to go and, like you say, go and take a quick shower. It's not going to take that long, is it? They'll probably be in and out, back out on the drill ground in less than 10 minutes, I imagine. You know.
But do we need to make this? Do we need to make this part of policy? Because, like we spoke about the harness example. Now, it's not a debate because it's written in the policy. It's written in the guidance. You're going to go working at height for a prolonged period of time, in whatever fall arrest. You need to have a harness on. But there's nothing in the policies, to my extent, to my knowledge, and I'd be interested to hear because you've been looking at it a lot more than I have, that says, no, you must do X. You must, undebatable, you must change your fire kit on return state. You must have a shower if you've been in and we can come out with some parameters, you know, if you've been in a BA wear with smoke and heat for longer than a 5-minute period, then you must shower on return station. And if the policy was there to back people up, then you wouldn't have the grumblings and you wouldn't have how much of this do we have to own ourselves, and how much should our services be stepping up and saying, no, it's policy, you have to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to meet somewhere in the middle. I think there's a lot of stuff that we need to be doing to look after ourselves. I think if we're not going to take the initiative and do stuff ourselves, how can we expect these policies to be implemented at any point anyway? I think we need to meet somewhere in the middle. Definitely, I think there are certain things that do need to be put into policy to make sure they're done. And obviously, you know, again, to make people feel comfortable doing them as well, and encourage people to do them. And then there are stuff that we can do now and we should be doing anyway, even for the sake of ourselves, just to look after ourselves, look after our crew. I mean, you know, not everyone changes the fire kit when it's filthy. If you've got someone riding the pump in a dirty kit, they're not just putting themselves at risk, they're putting everybody else at risk as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's about looking after yourself, looking after each other, really, while we wait for all these policies to be updated and implemented. Because I know there is a lot of work going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of services now starting to take action to combat the risks presented by toxins that we are being exposed to. So it always takes time, doesn't it? And I think we just need to meet somewhere in the middle, really.
So we're speaking a lot about absorption and stuff like that, and obviously people think and hear smoke and they think about, I can breathe it in, you know, it's smoke, I can breathe it in. But we were talking about how it gets on us and on our clothes and stuff like that. There's something about when we've left the area of greatest risk, we believe 99, if not all of the risk is gone. But you said about how it's, you know, it's all over our kit, it's all over our skin. And, you know, when I was reading in the article, obviously skin's the largest organ in the body. So we talk about absorption through that. Yeah. How much do you think that's not sort of appreciated, because we try and cover up everything we can? You're always going to get covered in something.
Yeah, it's a big factor. I think that's why it's so important to get the soot and the crap off your skin as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
The quicker you get it off your skin, the less time there is for it to be absorbed into your system. I'm going to throw some figures around. I can't remember exactly where I've read everything, but I'm still learning stuff all the time. I'm by no means an expert in this. A lot of it I'm reading because I want to educate myself further, I'm just trying to learn as much as I can.
100%.
I read somewhere that showering within an hour reduces your exposure by 90%. You know, it's probably a rough figure.
Yeah, it is, but no, I can see that, because we know this through absorption, through a lot of things, you know, from other chemicals, from creams, from, you know, sun exposure. There is the skin, even when we talk about radiation and stuff like that, there's always a time factor in the amount that your porous skin will absorb over time. And this also gets compounded by the fact that, well, you're warm, you're sweaty, or your pores are opened up, so you're more susceptible because you've been in a hot job and you're in warm kit, so your pores are going to be sucking it all in.
Exactly. You know, it's not always practical to shower within an hour, is it? Sometimes you might be at the job for an hour after you've come out of your BA wear. But I think it's just about bearing these things in mind, just to encourage people to do whatever they can when they can. I think my sort of main message is that there's a lot of stuff we could be doing that we're not doing, basically. It's not about trying to hound people into doing this and doing that and doing absolutely everything in a specific order and making people feel uncomfortable or, guilt tripping people for not doing stuff. That's not the aim. It's just there's a lot of stuff we're not doing that we could be doing, basically.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of, I think, what people are starting to realise now. That now that we have got all this information available, because there is so much information available.
Yeah. Do you think there's any aspect of, because when I'm hearing that aspect of responsibility and looking after each other and holding each other accountable and stuff like that, I wonder if the pandemic that we're currently in is actually going to help us out a little bit in this thought process. Because in my service, if you're on a fire engine, everyone's wearing a mask because we're in relatively close proximity and we all need to wear masks to look after each other as much as looking after ourselves. But, and I'm not going to pretend to be a microbiologist or an expert in virology and viruses and all that sort of stuff, but it's very similar in its concept in that if someone's in absolutely filthy kit sitting 1 meter away from you, and they're moving around and they're disturbing everything that's on them and it's all fluffing up in the cab, it's very, very similar. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of takeaways that we should have been doing this already. You don't wear a mask, or you don't take your kit off just for your own benefit. It's not all about you. If you don't care about your own health, well, that's a different conversation. But there's that obligation to the rest of the team, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. You've got everyone cleaning a lot more often. Everything there's been sort of regimented cleaning processes that have come in. Everyone is making the effort to keep everyone else safe, keep themselves safe, and be as clean as possible, and reduce that risk as much as we possibly can. So it is quite a similar approach, really, and I think this will possibly change everyone's approach to a lot of things, really.
I think if we catch it at the right time, hopefully as we come out the other side of the pandemic, and if we slip in at the right time and go, right, now that we've had a lot of these practices and we've shown that we can do it and we can do it well, I'm not encouraging everyone's going to keep wearing masks forever, because that would really suck. But getting to the point where we're a little bit more aware and realizing how some of these processes, some of these applications can benefit us in other ways. So we've spoken a lot about fire kit there, but it's not just about the kit, because the kit is obviously your own responsibility and your ownership as such, because it's assigned to you. But there's the sets. Do you know what I mean? The BA sets.
Oh, yeah, it's a massive one. They just, really, you come up the job and 9 times out of 10, they'll just go straight back in the cab.
Yep.
Straight back into the back of the fire engine with your dirty fire kit that's off gassing in the cab, and, it might get cleaned when you get back to the station. How well do they get cleaned? It depends who's worn the set, doesn't it? Yeah. How well it gets cleaned.
Yeah, and also some people don't want to blast them all off, in terms of pressure washing them and then hanging them in the drying room and having to get the spare set out and having to do a whole general check on another set. And people are like, well, I've scanned it on our red kite system or whatever, and that's about all I'm bothering doing. It's got a fresh cylinder on it, and you do see that sometimes. And sometimes I'll challenge it, and sometimes I'll be like, you all right with that, mate? Do you know what you're doing? Yeah, I'm fine. And you're like, it still looks a bit shit.
Yeah, it's difficult, especially if you think about the amount of times these BA sets can get worn, especially on some stations, the amount of times they could get worn in one shift.
Yeah.
It can be quite difficult to keep on top of the cleanliness. And I think because like you say, it's not an obvious risk to everyone, like being clipped on at height. I think it's easy to pretend it's not there. And I think that's the main thing that needs to change, really. Just being more proactive when it comes to the easy things to do after a job. We've been to the incident, we're back from the job. If we all pitch in together and spend 20, 30 minutes cleaning everything can be clean and back on the pump, ready to go. And the most important thing is to approach it as a team, really. I mean, there was one in the study that caught my attention. Basically, the results of the study showed that PPE isn't cleaned effectively and therefore remains contaminated prior to next use. So the kit is already contaminated before we've even put it on in a lot of cases. So, it's just that constant build-up, isn't it, really?
You see, I saw this come out with things like salvage sheets. I remember doing a fire investigation course where we spoke about common pathways and we spoke about, you've been at an incident where someone's poured fuel all over the front of someone's doorway or something like that, and they've set a light to it, an arson attack, and you're going into the investigation afterwards, but in an attempt to try and preserve the scene, people have thrown a salvage sheet down over the entrance hall because they're like, oh, I don't want to contaminate the area by people walking over it, so we'll throw a salvage sheet down. But salvage sheets are absolutely covered in rubbish from an RTC, in grease, in fuel, there's a million, he says exaggeratingly, there's loads and loads of contamination. And when we think, we throw a blooming salvage sheet down for the BA working area. Do you know what I mean? They go, oh yeah, his cylinder's over there on that filthy sheet.
Yeah. It gets rinsed off, doesn't it, when you get back and all out to dry. But sometimes, I mean, how good a job is that, really? A lot of them, they are absolutely grafted, aren't they, before they come off the pump.
And people will say that's what they're there for. And I'm like, yeah, but come on, can we not do a little bit better job? Have we not got some Citraclean, or have we not got a chemical of some form that we can at least soak it in? Or are we just going to just turn a blind eye?
Yeah, it is a difficult one. I mean, there are so many areas to our job, aren't there, that we need to keep on top of. We've got so many different skills to maintain, and I think sometimes people come, you can come a bit fatigued, can't you, with everything that you need to keep on top of. It's difficult to maintain all your skills, and then I think sometimes, you say to people, oh, we've got to start doing this now. Yeah, it's like, well, I haven't done that for the last 10 years. I haven't done that for the last 20 years. Why do I need to start doing it now? Yeah. And I guess if you just tell people you need to start doing this, but you don't tell them why, you can't expect them to just blindly start.
That's the big point there, right? Like you say. If you can understand the why behind it, that's what's most powerful. It's people change behaviours because of an overwhelming story. Often, you go, look, and you need to make a direct correlation. This equals that. You don't clip on, you fall off, you die. You don't clean this, you get infected in 5 years, 10 years, you die. You're enjoying your career now, but do you want to be the 80-year-old firefighter or the 80-year-old retired firefighter talking about your job and being able to still go out and about with your grandkids and all that sort of stuff? Or do you want to be the 45-year-old firefighter with breathing difficulties, the onset of early cancerous indications, talking about the amazing jobs where you didn't really care and you didn't really pay attention, and oh yeah, God, I remember we used to go in just wearing a flash hood and nothing else, or I always used to go upstairs and just have a quick look in myself before I put the BA team in, and I find that as well, incident commanders, and I'll hold my hand up, if I go up to a property, there's smoke in the living room or something like that, I'm checking the doors.
You know, have a look, don't you?
Yeah, you've got to go in and have you've got to take some risk of some form. You've got to go. You go, I've opened the front door, right? Okay, that door's at least accessible. I'm not going to door entry procedures, whatever. I'm going to check that it can open, or I've gone around the back, or I can see a casualty on the floor there. You're already going potentially unjustifiable risk.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I guess it's just those practices that we have been doing for so long. They will take time to change, and it is a slow, gradual process, isn't it? And I think things like that, they do eventually change over time. But like you say, you have to just, if you want people to start doing stuff a certain way, then they want to understand why, which I think is fair enough, and that's really what I'm trying to do, is just make people realise why stuff needs to change, why the culture needs to change, really.
So like you've said, there's a massive amount, maybe, 70-80% of this we can take on as personal accountability as operational firefighters, but we are allowed to, and we should do, push a certain amount of this responsibility, whether it's 20-30%, back to the people that are providing us with this care. I keep bringing it up, but people give us a harness, they don't say, oh, make sure you've got a harness and you have to bring your own. Do you know what I mean? We say you need to clean these BA sets down. Now, on some services, even at the station, there are facilities out there that can be carried on a fire engine, where it's a tray that you pull out, you mount a BA set on it, and whether you use a chemical and the hose reel, or whether it's like a washing machine style process where you push it in and it blasts it and cleans the set. These are things that and I know space is sparing on a fire engine with all the new kit we're getting all the time, but what's your priorities? I know there's a number of pieces on our fire engines that we don't bloody use. We rarely ever use it. Do you know what I mean? There's stuff, chemical protective suits. Crikey, how often do they get pulled out? Do you know what I mean? How many times is there a large chemical attack? I mean, there'll be some people listening going, oh no, we've used them 3 times this week. Yeah, okay, but not really very often do they get used. Whereas BA jobs versus some of the other kit, there's a debate to be had there, and I feel like that debate's not being had. There are things we can use.
Yeah, definitely. I do. Obviously, there is an element of responsibility there that needs to be upheld by the people that are providing us the equipment, giving us the job role. I think stuff needs to change in terms of the protection that we are afforded while we're doing our job. And, like you say, you look at the differences between certain stations, certain fire engines across the country, even within services themselves. It's massive. You've got some brand new fire stations that they're kitted out. They've got all the space, the dedicated rooms for certain things, and then you have stations that are 50 years old, falling apart, that haven't got the space and the dedicated areas that they need to make sure we can do what we need to be doing. So that there does need to be some sort of unification, I think, of safety measures and resources, even across the country, really.
And there are manufacturers out there doing it, though. I think I'm pretty confident, and I apologise if it's not the case, but I think you shared a video only even a few days ago about a washing machine style, I don't want to keep saying that, but that's all I could think of when I saw it, where they mount a BA harness on a racking of some form and it gets pushed into a machine that basically washes it and blasts it from all angles and all this sort of stuff. They're out there. Have you seen or are you familiar with any of the manufacturers or the kit that's out there?
Draeger provide systems like that. You can put helmets, boots, BA sets in, and it basically effectively sterilises the kit. And I think it's pretty much immediately ready for use after. Obviously, there's obvious problems with those, and how much do they cost? Where would you put them? I think we do need to see things like that on fire stations. Absolutely.
I mean, we're not writing blank checks, and I know it's not our money to spend.
I'd have one on every fire station. I'd have one of them on every fire station.
If it's important, then you're not going to debate it, are you? It's just whether or not you think it's important enough. And I know, like we say, it is government money or public money, and we're not writing blank checks to line our own pockets. We're not buying widescreen tellies and more dumbbells for the gym. We're buying something that's going to mitigate a proven cancerous causing thing. I don't see. I don't know if the information is being listened to, or we just don't think it's a priority. And I say we, as a wider sector, there's people that are in charge of budgets. These people that are putting out contracts for tender when we're looking at BA sets and BA complements and all of our BA equipment. Why is that not in the budget? Why are we not going, so how much of it are we going to spend on the BA servicing and cleaning equipment?
It's a good question. I would like to see more of that. I would like to see dedicated cleaning equipment on stations, dedicated cleaning areas on all stations, policies telling you to use them, exactly how to use them, when to use them, why we need to use them, and training staff in their use and everything, and even maintaining them so that we can use them whenever we need to use them. I do think it is something that does need to be implemented as soon as we can. A big part of it, there's the UConn stuff that we were talking about. They've recently brought out some more information. They did the follow-up survey of UK firefighters. I think it was last year or the year before. They did the survey where they had over 10,000 responses, and a big part of that is trying to these changes into law. I think out of the 10,000 firefighters that responded, they said they had 4.1% that have had some form of cancer, which is massive. If you think about, you think about the amount of firefighters in the UK as well. 10,000 responded, 4.1% have had some form of cancer. There's a lot of people that haven't responded to that might be in a similar situation. And now
that's 400 people. My maths are pretty bad, but that's 400 people.
Exactly. That's 400, potentially 400 currently serving firefighters that either have or have had some form of cancer.
And I'd argue it's more than that, because people, the amount of people that don't respond, they don't understand the stuff. Anybody that's lived long enough to now be struggling from the onset of a cancerous causing carcinogen they've absorbed 5 or 10 years ago, they're probably not, and I'm going to stereotype it, they may or may not be entirely computer savvy, and they may not be filling out surveys because they don't check their emails.
Yeah, exactly.
We all know people like that. The people that are the old hands on station who are probably the ones that are never cleaning their kit. They're always got soot on their face and they never check their bloody emails. So the number is higher than that.
Yeah, it's got to be, hasn't it? It will be definitely higher. And I think now what they brought out, I shared it last week. The FBU and UConn have brought out this registry. It's the UK Firefighters Cancer and Disease Registry, which they are urging all firefighters to sign up to. So what it is that there currently isn't enough evidence out there to suggest there is a definitive link between firefighting and cancer. And we don't have any legislation in the UK like they have elsewhere.
Yeah.
So if the firefighter comes down with cancer and they think it's a result of the job, they have to prove it.
Maybe not. Maybe it's genetic, and you're like, well,
exactly. You know, how do you do that?
Yeah.
So this
that's really. We'll share that link in the notes of this podcast because it'd be good to get as many people as possible on that.
Yeah, it's just about providing a record and trying to establish the data and the evidence they need to provide that link between firefighting and cancer. And if they do manage to do that, then potentially we will see changes in law and legislation that will hopefully lead to things like equipment being implemented on all stations, for example.
The hope is that it won't even just be the services responsibility. It would be the manufacturers or the providers. For example, and there's loads of others out there, but you referenced Draeger. There will be a ratio where you're like, look, for every 10 BA sets you buy, which maybe is like a station's worth from one pump with four on it, and then you got your spares on station or whatever. For every 10 BA sets you buy, you must also buy one of these and one of these and one of these, and one of those items being the facility to responsibly clean it, because you shouldn't be able to make an order for something like that and not have that included in it. It's, if you were ordering fire kit, you wouldn't order leggings and no tunic. You'd be like, no, they've got to have a tunic because it's an essential part of their PPE. Well, why is it? Well, because it isn't. It's bloody obvious, Pete, and stop being facetious. But I'm like, yeah, well, it should be the same with BA sets. It should be the same that every X number that you buy, you have to buy this because it's an integral part of sustaining the kit. You've got to wash the kit, otherwise it's going to break down over time, it's going to get damaged. But for the protection of the user as well, it's like you wouldn't buy a BA set and not buy the mask. Do you know what I mean? Right, where you should be buying the facility to clean it and maintain it and look after the wearer.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? If things like that. I wouldn't even like to guess how long it'll be until we see that. But
well, they're going to listen to the podcast, James, so it'll be problem solved. Then this is it. We're about to make history on this podcast. We've just solved the problem. Come on, get Draeger on line one. That's the way to go about it. So we've spoken about steps that can be taken at the incident ground. We've spoken about some of the items that people can utilise when they're back on station. Something we haven't mentioned yet is when people go on transfers. When people go detached from a station or they're going to cover somewhere else.
Yeah.
We have something in our service where it's a little bit like, use the station van, but there's only one. And if you're sending more than one cover out, if you're happy to use your own vehicle, and if you have business insurance and you're happy to use your own vehicle, then use your own vehicle. Well, should we not be at a point where we're like, I'll use my own vehicle, but I'm not transporting my kit in it because, I've got clean kit, but you've not given me 3 pairs of boots, or you've not. Do you know what I mean? There's this unwritten expectation, and we're putting that sort of, we're pushing that moral expectation back onto the firefighter to say, just take your kit with you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I've done it in the past. I've took my own fire kit in my own car in the past.
Yeah, I've done it. You go on a course and it's just you detached for the weekend to a fire behaviour course or whatever, and you just go and you take your kit with you, and then it comes with homes with you on days off because you don't want to travel 50 miles in the other direction to put it back on station.
Yeah, sometimes you're in a situation you can't avoid it, unfortunately. I guess the least you can do is bag it up, but at least put it in a bag, put it in your car. That's what we're doing. We're kind of think we've been exploring different ways of transporting the kit so that it's sealed in something in transit. 9 times out of 10, I think that will be in the station vehicle.
Yeah.
But the main thing is to put it in something that is
mine tends to be one of the big clear bags, wrap it round, gooseneck it, cable tie it, and it goes in the back. And they're massive bags. You could probably get in them yourself, and they're bloody huge things. When we talk about our working rig, as in our shirts and our trousers and all that sort of stuff. We have certain day crewing plus stations and stuff like that where I get they're doing 24-hour shifts and stuff like that. They got washing machines. They've got washing machines on station. Where does the line stop between taking your, you taking your trousers and your t-shirt and whatever, your hat and your shirt that you wore underneath your fire kit or you were wearing on the incident ground because you took your tunic off when you came out the BOA, you took your tunic off as you should have done because you didn't want to get some. Right, now you're walking around in a t-shirt, or now you're walking around in your fleece or your jumper or whatever. That's going to go home with you and you're going to wash it. I've got a 7-year-old daughter. I'm going to put it in the washing machine potentially with her bedding, with her whatever. Again, I'm not a bloody scientist. I don't know, and I'm not trying to point the finger, but I'm like, where does the line stop? I'm not expecting people to spoon feed us, but we're either taking it seriously or we're not. Has there been any looked into in terms of that, or has it all been sort of more fire kit focused?
I think it is more fire kit focused. I know that our fire kits don't actually they don't actually stop us absorbing the particulates. So
that's what I mean. I didn't think they did.
We do absorb it through the fire kit onto your clothing underneath.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're less contaminated underneath than your fire kit, but there is some element of contamination there. But I mean, there isn't a washing machine on my fire station, so my working rig comes home with me and it goes in the washing machine. What I do is I wash my working rig separately to everything else.
Because I know we take our tunics off, but you go back to station, you're taking your tunic off, turn it inside out. Let's say we've bagged it, and let's say we've sponged ourselves down. And we know it happens, guys. We get back to the fire station and we go, I'm just going to go and do my set, boss. And in your T-shirt and leggings, you grab your BA set and you head off to the BA shop or wherever to service it. So that mucky, horrible BA set goes straight onto your T-shirt. And people might go, oh no, you should put your tunic back on. Well, the tunic that's also covered in stuff that we've just said I need to take off. So,
and that is off-gassing with whatever,
So you're like, I'm not sure where we land on that one, but I want to see the conversation had more. And I'm not assuming it's not being had. I'm sure it's being had behind closed doors, but I don't see any policies, procedures. And again, we've referenced this FBU register that we're going to put on there, but I don't see any results getting punched out the end now. It sounds like we've been having this conversation for 10 years now. The evidence has been coming through. It's not happening quick enough. And like you said, with all the new kit coming out, all the new procedures, does it even stand a chance to get through the noise? Unless there's another 50 Jameses out there all pushing hard, can we realistically expect anything to change?
I think all the things we're talking about, the post-fire routines at the fire, at the station, policies being implemented, new PPE equipment being looked at further down the line. I think this stuff is going to change. I'd like to think that in the next 5 years, there's going to be a lot of changes. I think definitely in the next 10, there'll be 10 years from now, I think stuff will look very different.
That's a scary number, mate. I'm a serial optimist. I'd love to say 2 years. We've got to make it more important. And a lot of this stuff you referenced there, it's low-hanging fruit, mate. It's not a lot of cost, is it? Do you know what I mean? This is just
it's not.
Telling people why, embracing the why, making the why important enough. And then, but the only thing we're speaking about here that's expensive, if anyone, getting a washing machine or getting the ability to wash your set down. Oh no, I'm not paying £1,000 per station, 30 stations. We're not spending 30 grand on it. Okay, well, we can debate that when it gets to it, an FBU or whoever might help us. But a lot of these other things, they're behaviours, the policies, things that we can do ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right there. I think maybe 10 years is a stretch. I don't know. I just don't want to be too. I'd love to see it straight away, but I don't know. Yeah, maybe 10 years is a stretch, isn't it? I'm hopeful that it'll be a lot sooner than that.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound like I'm. Is it expecting too much? Not expecting too much, is it? Really?
Mate, it's not expecting too much. It's only if you don't think it's important enough. I I do a lot of coaching, and I say to people, it's whether it's your shoulds or your musts. That is the difference. It's whether or not you think you should do it or you must do it. Do you think it's important or not? Or are we just talking rubbish? We're just postulating and making conjecture and swinging our arms around and making a bit of noise and, just listen to him for a minute and then he'll shut up and go away. Well, no. Is it a should or is it a must? Do you think it's important or are you just giving me lip service? That is the brutal conversation. And it's largely why a lot of senior leadership team don't like me, is because I want to have those blunt conversations. Oh, yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. Okay, are you taking me seriously or are you just listening to me waffle till I shut up and go away? Is it important or is it not important? And that's just, if we can force enough uncomfortable conversations to the forefront. And that's with everything in life. I say to people, the quality of your life is a direct correlation to the number of uncomfortable conversations you are willing to have. And that's the same, I believe, in our operational role. If you're willing to have an uncomfortable and blunt conversation sometimes with a member of the public at an incident, the chances are you can resolve the incident safely a lot faster if you can be direct, not rude, but you can be direct and you can get to the point and have potentially an uncomfortable conversation and cut through the noise. If we can cut through the noise on a subject matter like this and listen to what is now becoming some fairly undebatable, undeniable data, then we can really bury down into it's no longer a should, is it? It's not debatable. We can't. You are causing cancer by not taking these actions, and you have an obligation as an employer and your employment, even if they're like, oh, well, I can't make them do it. No, you can't, but you put the policies and procedures in place. You can give them the resources. Yes, it's got to be personal accountability. All PPE is PPE. It's personal. I can't make you wear your helmet. I can tell you it's important. And if you smash your head open, you're not going to be able to make a claim. Not that you want to make a claim, but it's for your own benefit. But we've got to put these things in place, and those conversations have got to be had. You know, the BA suppliers, they've got to think it's important. The services, they've got to think it's important. Somebody's got to grab hold of this, whether it's operational department, health and safety department, and it's got to happen. 10 years is too long. My serial optimist is kicking and screaming.
It's our health, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's our health. You want to get the best out of your career. You want to get the best out of your retirement. You know, you want to, especially now. Retirement age is 60 now.
Yes.
So you retire at 60. How long are you going to have left after that? You want a decent amount of time to enjoy your life after you've retired. Enjoy your family. You want to be around for as long as you can. You want to be healthy. So things do need to change. I think they do need to change very, very quickly.
So many things that we have ignored. We ignored some of them, and some of them we were unaware of. We've done this for so long now that mine and your generation are going to be the ones that see these things come to the forefront. Because like you said, people that were retiring in their late 40s and their 50s, they were dropping off the radar because they were picking things up long after they'd retired and nobody really knew about it. Now, and I say this to people all the time, your eventual wealth is going to be your health. It's not going to be how much money have you accumulated at the end of your career. It's going to be what is your physical and mental condition coming out at the end of your career, whatever your career may be, whether it's in the emergency services or otherwise. Have you got physical capacity? Have you got mental capacity? Have you not, have you looked after your hydration, your nutrition? You know what I mean? Have you not got diabetes? Have you not got a really poor postural issue? Have you not caused a muscular damage through poor practices that you've done day in and day out because you've carried something you shouldn't have been carrying? Or have you been exposing yourself to something which now has had an ongoing debilitating effect on your health? You know, this isn't going to fall off the end of the radar anymore when people leave. People are going to be in the job in their late 50s and approaching 60 years of age. And we're going to see this. We're going to see it in the job.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we will. I mean, even just look at fitness levels as well. You know, your fitness level falls as you get older. It gets harder to maintain that level. I think there's a lot of stuff stacked against us. Not just this stuff. There's so much stuff stacked against us. You know, there's the contaminants we've been talking about. We've got sleep deprivation.
Oh my God.
Diet, nutrition, shift work in general. There's so many things. I mean, the amount of heart attacks you see in the fire service as well. Yeah. That's another thing to contend with. It all stacks against you, and there's a lot that we have to contend with. Yeah. And I think if we want to be able to do our job for as long as we can, we need to be doing these things and taking note.
And I know it's not a bottomless pit of money. I know that, but with all the attention that we're giving to mental health and stuff like that, and it's crucially important, and I think we should be giving support to that 100%. But mental health, or our awareness and our acknowledgement of mental health, is relatively. I mean, it should have been a priority a long time ago, but it's newer. But this is a physical thing we've been aware of for a long time, and I don't want it to fall. It's not negotiable anymore. We don't need to wait for the data.
If you want to look after people's mental health, you have to look after the physical health as well. I mean, there's so many potential problems that are going to send people's mental health into a downward spiral. I'm quite an active person. If I a bit cold or whatever and I can't go to the gym, that it pisses me off. I wouldn't want to get to the point where I was so debilitated that I couldn't do my job anymore, which is why I am trying to be as proactive as I can, so that I get to carry on doing my job. So, the mental health aspects of it, it's all tied in together, isn't it? So
this is it. You can only give people all the information, and we need to make sure they've got it. Because we say to people, look, like mental health, talk about it, guys. Open up, talk about it. Okay, right, I know I need to talk. I know I need to have that self-awareness. I need to ask each other how I'm doing. Right, food, guys, make sure you're looking after yourself. Sleep can be really damaging. So on your days off, make sure you're getting plenty of rest. We need to give people all the information and make sure it's a priority, because there's so many things stacking against us. We don't want to have anything we can point the finger at, because we want to know that, I was given all the information and now it's down to me, and I'm happy with that. I'm happy to take responsibility of my own health because I know all the information. But if I know about nutrition, and I know about sleep, and I know about don't fall off the Alp because you're going to die, I know about that stuff, great. But if I don't know about this, and it's the sort of thing that then catches me out in my late 50s, and I go, nobody told me, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. And you're like, well, and I'm not talking everyone's going to start suing people, but you don't want, even I'm not the sort of person to ever sue somebody, but I'd be like, I just feel really let down. Do you know what I mean? I'd feel really upset, and I'd be like, I just got forgotten about. You mean you knew, and you just didn't. What, it wasn't. Oh, I was really busy, or we had other priorities, or it was during COVID, or it was this, it was that. No, hang on a minute. That's not good enough. That's not good enough.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, and I say to people, I'll go back to it. this registry that's come out, if people want to see these changes taking place, sign up to this registry. The more firefighters that sign up to it, the more data they're going to have, the sooner I think we will see these changes being forced in, and they won't be able to be ignored anymore.
It's a journey of
everyone
1,000
that's
miles.
interested in it. Everyone that's interested in it, push the people, push your crews into looking after themselves. Push that message. Try and encourage people to take a bit more of a proactive stance on stuff. If there is a lack of awareness, try and educate people. There's so many ways that you can reach people. And like you say about uncomfortable conversations. If you want to see a change, 9 times out of 10 you have to have an uncomfortable or difficult conversation to affect that change, don't you?
But also, a lot of people listening, will be operational crews. So, and I've got it tattooed on the back of my right hand. It says "Be the difference." You can probably see it there. For a lot of people, you don't necessarily have to. If you don't feel, all right, James, it's all right having an uncomfortable conversation. It's easy for you to say. Or if you don't want to have the conversation, then lead by example. Be the difference.
Yeah.
Bag your BA setup. Bag your kit up. And then when people say, "What bloody hell are you doing, James?" You'll go, "I'm doing this. And this is why I'm doing it." And they'll go, "Oh yeah, fair point actually." And if you're at least leading by example, that awareness, that rising tide that raises all ships, because you're right, it is a long journey, but it's, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And this single step that you can take today is completing that link underneath. When you go in on shift tonight, just have a look at your kit and go, "Oh, you know what? Yeah, we did go to that RTC, or we did go to that house fire, or we did go to that bin fire. Actually, I didn't wear BA. Oh no, but all that stuff was pouring out of that skip and covering me, and I didn't put my kit in for wash after that last job, did I?" That small step there. And then when somebody says, "Bloody hell, mate, it's first day on shift, what are you swashing your kit out for?" You go, "Because of this. Because I listened to that thing. Because James told me to."
I mean, yeah, you're right. If you start doing stuff and people see you doing stuff, slowly you will start to see other people coming around to the idea and doing stuff as well. And people will start to realise, "Oh, right, okay, this is what I need to be doing to look after myself." And a lot of the time, it's just because people haven't thought about it. It's not because they can't be bothered or they don't want to do it. A lot of the time, they just haven't thought about it, or no one's told them, or they're not aware of it. But we're getting to the point now where we can't ignore it anymore.
No. And especially, I see so much recruitment in the UK at the minute, and recruitment into whole times and stuff like that. It's happening every bloody week by the sounds of it, in a different service. Now is the time, and I don't think we'll get as unique a time as this again for perhaps another 15 years. I don't know. And we've got such an influx of people coming into the service that if we push hard with things like this now and make it standard expectation, coming out of your BA week 1, it should be X, Y, Z. You come out, you do this, you do that. It's not a debate, you do it. And then they'll get on station and people will be like, "Why is a new recruit doing that?" "Oh, it's because we all do it. We do that now, guys. I know we never used to, but we've been made aware." So
make it part of the culture. Yeah. Make it. You need that culture change. And like you say, if you do that, and this information is included, recruit courses and e-learning packages and all that stuff, it will eventually change the culture, and it will become the new norm.
Absolutely,
and that's what we need.
James, for people that have been absolutely reassured, blown away, and inspired by some of the messages you've shared today, because I've found it's got my back up, as I'm sure you've probably tell, because I get really annoyed when I'm like, it's even when I catch myself doing stuff and I'm like, "Moron, come on, Pete, that's not in your best interest, and you do stupid stuff." For people that want to find out a little bit more, and they want to, because I know you share a load of stuff on your platforms about good practices, that little nudge, that little reminder, what's the best way for people to reach out to yourself, or for people to follow what you're doing?
Get on the Instagram at Stoke Vent.
I found most valuable when I went onto your blog, because so few people do blogs these days. They're bloody hard work, and they've got such great information in there. So my hope, with all due respect, is that more people go to the blog, because I think that's where they're going to get the really, really good information. So I'll be sure to drop that in the notes as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much, mate. Cheers.
Beautiful, my man. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy life, my man. I know it's a shame that we've had to do this over the gift of technology, but when this all blows over, we'll be back on it and we'll get together, get some food.
Yeah, great stuff. No, thanks for having me on. I appreciate the invite.
All right, my man. We'll send love to the family, and I will speak to you soon.
Same to you. Cheers, Pete. Thank you very much.
Well, there it is, folks. That was myself and the incredible James Meredith from Stoke Vent. Really, really enjoyed my chat with James. Such a down-to-earth guy. Do you know what I mean? A really experienced, knowledgeable firefighter who is able to stick his head above the parapet, draw some focus and put the spotlight on a potentially uncomfortable conversation where we need to be confronting some of these genuine dangers to our long-term health. And I love some of the information he shared today. It was really valuable, and it kind of, got me thinking about some of the things that I do in my day-to-day role and how I probably need to start making these changes. I mean, when I go back on shift today, not in 2 weeks, not waiting for the policy to come out, not waiting for the procedure, not waiting for the change in national operational guidance, for me to do it today. Real takeaways for you and your crews and your family. If you know somebody that works in the fire service, if you yourself are an operational member of the fire service, please have a think about some of the things we've spoken about today. If you're a supplier, if you're a provider, think about how can you help operational crews out there. Get in contact with the Firefighters podcast, get in contact with James on Stoke Vent, register your interest on the FBU registry. Let's get that data pushed to the top. Let's get it in the spotlight. Let's make this a priority and let's get it done. Thank you once again for taking time out of your valuable, busy life to be here with us and lend us your ears for the hour or so that has just passed, that I hope, if you're listening to the end, you probably found it quite interesting, or you forgot to press pause, you forgot to switch it off. Either way, you're still listening. All joking aside, guys, there's some really important stuff there. Cancer is no joke. If you've ever known anybody or been affected by somebody that has been touched by this incredibly toxic and vicious disease, then it isn't a joke. So let's take this seriously. Let's do something about it. Take action today. Whether it's a big action, whether it's a small action, just take that action. Please share this with somebody you feel is going to take some value from it. Share it with the guys and girls on station. Send it out to a member of your service, somebody that is a decision maker. Get them to listen in on it. Get them to reach out. But if nothing else, make sure you are looking after yourself. Take ownership. Take those actions today and protect yourself now, so that you, your family, your friends, your community can enjoy having you as part of their world long after your time in the emergency services has come to an end. Thanks again for listening in, and I look forward to seeing you soon, right here on the Firefighters podcast.